Jill's final secret shatters Billy. You won't believe what happens next. On a stormy autumn in Genoa City, the kind where the shadows hang low and the air feels heavy with untreated business, the pressure inside the Abbott manse is nearly suffocating, and at the center of it all stands Billy Abbott, blindsided and unrehearsed for the emotional earthquake that's about to rip through his world. For weeks on The Young and the Restless, subtle hints have refocused to a secret Jill has been carrying. Ganders that dallied too long, cryptic commentary about heritage, and her unforeseen asseveration on tying up loose ends while in Genoa City. But nothing could prepare Billy for the verity she eventually reveals. Jill Abbott, fiercely independent and notoriously calculating, has always loved her son in her own complicated way. Their relationship has been a battleground of ambition, disappointment, remission, and fragile conciliation. Billy has spent times trying to prove himself good, not just as a businessman at Chancellor Winters or Abbott Chancellor, but as a son able of standing altitudinous without tone sabotage. Yet just when he believes he's set up solid ground, Jill pulls it out from under him with a concession that redefines everything he allowed. He knew about his family, his identity, and his future. The scene begins still. Jill processes Billy to meet her at the Chancellor estate under the guise of agitating a restructuring plan. He arrives guarded but hopeful, allowing maybe this is another occasion to show her he's progressed beyond the reckless better she formerly desponded over. Rather, Jill's tone is dimmed. She doesn't desolate time on amenities. She tells him she's made a decision about the future of the company, one that cannot be undone. Billy braces for review, assuming she's about to strip him of power or install a new CEO over his expostulations. But what comes next is far more particular. Jill reveals that times are gone. During a tumultuous period in her life, she made a choice that she has rued every day since, a choice involving a sealed trust, a retired clause in Catherine Chancellor's will, and a devise Billy no way anticipated. The shock isn't just about plutocrat or control. It's about treason. Jill admits that she amended the trust in secret after Catherine's end, turning a significant portion of Chancellor's controlling shares, not to Billy, not indeed to the Abbott family but to an outside party she believed would cover the company from Billy's worst instincts. The name she speaks hangs in the air like thunder: Cain Ashby. Billy's expression hardens incontinently. Cain, his longtime rival, the man whose history with Chancellor Diligence is as tangled as his own, has been the silent devise of Jill's lack of faith in her son. Jill insists it wasn't about love or favoritism, it was about fear. She stressed Billy would buckle under the weight of control. She stressed his gambling dependence would resurface. She stressed history would repeat itself. Billy doesn't roar at first. He laughs right, suspecting. He reminds Jill of every time he clawed his way back from the point, every insomniac night spent rebuilding his credibility, every reason he offered for once miscalculations. He accuses her of no way truly seeing him, of indurating him in time as the reckless man he formerly was. Jill, uncharacteristically vulnerable, confesses that she believed secretiveness was protection. But secrets in Genoa City have a way of crumping at the worst possible moment. And this bone does. As the verity spreads, alliances begin to shift. Jack Abbott is mealy when he learns what Jill has done. He views it as not just a treason of Billy but a strategic trouble to the Abbott heritage. Jack confronts Jill with icy perfection, reminding her that family fidelity should have come first. Meanwhile, Cain, blindsided by the disclosure himself, struggles with the moral counter-accusations. Though he no way asked for Jill's covert vote of confidence, he can't deny the occasion it presents. The power dynamic at Chancellor is suddenly unstable, and everyone feels it. Back at the Abbott manse, Billy spirals not into dependence, but into clarity. He begins reconsidering old exchanges with Jill, fating subtle suggestions he missed. Her asseveration on oversight. Her resistance to relinquishing control. He realizes that her secret wasn't just about shares, it was about trust. Or rather, the absence of it. Victoria Newman, ever realistic, advises Billy not to let emotion pull his strategy. She knows firsthand how maternal mistrustfulness can scar ambition, having endured Victor Newman's ruthless prospects for times. Billy listens but remains raw. He confesses that what hurts utmost isn't the business maneuvering, it's knowing his own mama believed he was unable of change. In an important battle, Billy returns to Jill not with rage, but with resoluteness. He tells her he refuses to be defined by her fear. He announces his stepping down from the board, not out of defeat, but to make commodity independent, commodity incontrovertibly his. Jill's face crumbles at the consummation that her attempt to cover her son may have pushed him further down than ever. She begs him not to ramify ties fully. Billy softens but stands firm. Remission, he says, will take time and evidence. The fallout ripples outward. Lily Winters, defensive of Chancellor's integrity, questions Kane's part in the arrangement. She demands translucency. The board fractures into coalitions, each calculating the long-term consequences. Genoa City buzzes with enterprise. Phyllis Summers sees occasion in chaos, still exploring ways to exploit the insecurity. Indeed, Victor Newman watches from a distance, regaled by the Abbott family's internal implosion. Yet amid the commercial drama lies a deeply mortal story, a mama who loved imperfectly, and a son hopeless to be believed in. Jill's final secret doesn't just shatter Billy, it forces him to review himself without seeking her blessing. In the ending moments of the occasion, Billy stands alone in the dimly lit office that formerly represented confirmation. He removes his nameplate from the office and sets it down gently, not as an act of rendition, but as a protestation of independence. Outdoors, the storm clears. The megacity skyline glows under breaking shadows, mirroring the fragile stopgap inside him. What happens coming is uncertain. Will Billy's reinvention succeed, or will Jill's fears prove predictive? Can their relationship survive this fracture? One thing is certain: in Genoa City, secrets no way stay buried, and the consequences of this bone will echo for months. As observers stare forward in unbelief, they realize that this plot isn't just about power, it's about heritage, redemption, and the painful verity that occasionally the deepest injuries come from the people who love us most. As the shockwaves from Jill's disclosure continue to resonate across Genoa City, the emotional foreshocks prove far more destabilizing than the commercial counter-accusations anyone originally stressed. On the young and the restless, the fallout from Jill's final secret doesn't fade after a single battle. It deepens, mutates, and exposes fractures that have been still widening for times. For Billy Abbott, the sting of treason evolves into commodity more dangerous than wrathfulness, determination stoned by clarity. In the days following the concession, Billy becomes surprisingly focused. Those closest to him notice the shift incontinently. Gone is the impulsive edge that formerly defined his decision timber. In its place is a measured calm that unsettles indeed Jack Abbott. Jack, habituated to playing both family and protection, attempts to step by, offering Billy strategic guidance and indeed proposing a united Abbott front to reclaim control from Kane. But Billy surprises him. He declines the offer, not dismissively, but forcefully. He explains that this battle cannot be about retribution or pride, however, it must be on his own terms, if he fights. For maybe the first time, Billy isn't replying. He's picking. Meanwhile, Jill wrestles intimately with consequences she no way anticipated. She believed the secret would remain sealed indefinitely. Kane was meant to serve as a safeguard, a silent contingency. She no way imagined circumstances would force her hand. Alone at the Chancellor estate, she renewals every vital moment in Billy's worried past: the gambling curl, the public dishiness, the reckless opinions that jeopardized Abbott Chancellor's stability. In her mind, she had acted out of motherly instinct. But now, stripped of defense, her conduct feels like poltroonery disguised as caution. She begins to question whether her incapability to trust Billy has been lower about his sins and further about her own fear of losing control. Kane Ashby, thrust into the limelight, faces a complicated moral crossroads. Though he no way solicited Jill's initiative, the reality remains he now holds influence that could alter Chancellor's line permanently. Lily Winters confronts him directly. She demands to know whether he intends to subsidize on Jill's lack of faith in her own son. Kane insists he no way wanted to come between mama and child. But Lily presses harder, reminding him that silence can be just as destructive as action. However, he becomes complicit in the damage if he accepts power born from secretiveness. The boardroom becomes a battleground. Exigency meetings stretch late into the night. Shareholders brute. Legal brigades anatomize Catherine Chancellor's original will, checking every correction Jill executed. Some argue that Jill had every legal right to restructure the trust. Others question the ethics of altering heritage intentions without translucency. The debate transcends profit perimeters, it becomes philosophical. What defines stewardship? Is leadership about securing means at all costs, or about empowering the coming generation to evolve? Billy watches from a distance at first. He studies the shifting alliances precisely. Phyllis Summers approaches him with her hand blend of boldness and computation, proposing a common adventure that would allow Billy to make commodity independent of both Abbott and Chancellor influence. Her pitch is tempting: disruptive media expansion, aggressive accessions, a platform free from family oversight. Billy listens but doesn't commit. He has learned the cost of impulsive hookups. For formally, he chooses tolerance over adrenaline. Victoria Newman, fating the strategic vacuum forming within Chancellor, subtly examines Billy's mindset. She understands the sharp effect of maternal mistrustfulness. Her own relationship with Victor Newman has been defined by it. In a rare moment of vulnerability, she tells Billy that occasionally the only way to silence dubitation is through inarguable success. But she also warns him proving someone wrong cannot be the sole foundation of ambition. Billy absorbs her words courteously. He admits that for times he chased confirmation from Jill, from Jack, from anyone who questioned him. Now, he wants commodity additional, tone description untethered from their prospects. Jill, decreasingly insulated, makes a bold move. She calls a press conference. In a move that shocks Genoa City, she intimately acknowledges her restructuring decision and frames it as a contingency plan born from one's insecurity. She stops short of naming Billy directly but implies that leadership must prioritize long-term protection over emotional fidelity. The statement sends shockwaves through the Abbott family. Billy sees it not as responsibility but as defense. The crack deepens. Jack confronts Jill with fury slightly contained. He accuses her of rewriting history to shield herself from review. Jill counters that Jack no way bore the burden of watching Billy tone destruct as nearly as she did. The argument escalates until times of resentment slip into the open, old battles, implied judgments, and contending delineations of love. For the first time, it becomes clear that Jill's secret wasn't solely about Billy's capability. It was about her lifelong struggle to feel secure within the Abbott dynasty. Empowering Kane had been, subconsciously, an assertion of her own heritage separate from John Abbott's shadow. As pressures mount, an unanticipated development complicates everything. A forensic inspection uncovers a clause within Catherine's original estate documents suggesting that any significant revision to controlling shares must be reviewed by an independent trustee, one who was no way consulted during Jill's correction. The disclosure doesn't automatically abate Jill's decision, but it introduces legal nebulosity. The board fractures further. Suits impend. Public perception teeters. Billy is prompted by multiple counsels to challenge the correction outright. Doing so could restore his path to control. But he hesitates. Suing his own mama would cement a peak that might no way heal. Rather, he chooses a different strategy. Still, he begins assembling investors, former associates, tech entrepreneurs, indeed disillusioned shareholders who crave invention over tradition. He outlines a vision for a new media empire embedded in translucency and adaptive leadership. Word spreads that Billy Abbott is erecting commodity from scrape. Kane feels the pressure intensify. However, Chancellor's dominance could erode organically if Billy succeeds singly. Lily proposes a concession approach, Billy with a cooperation offer rather than opposition. Kane resists at first, cautious of appearing weak. But Lily argues that collaboration could neutralize hostility and restore integrity. Reluctantly, Kane agrees to request a private meeting. The hassle is charged but civil. Kane acknowledges that he no way intended to undermine Billy's relationship with Jill. He offers to relinquish a portion of the shares back into a neutral trust. Handed, Billy agrees to work alongside him in a new strategic direction. Billy listens precisely. He recognizes sincerity in Kane's tone, yet he senses caution beneath it. He responds that cooperation cannot be erected atop secrecy. However, translucency must antecede concession, if Kane truly wants conciliation. Jill, literacy of the meeting, panics. She fears losing both her son and her strategic safeguard contemporaneously. In a moment of raw honesty, She visits Billy late at night. The manse is quiet. The discussion is stripped of commercial language. Jill admits she undervalued him, not just his capability, but his adaptability. She confesses that part of her clung to the narrative of Billy as fragile because it justified her uninterrupted involvement. Letting him completely succeed would mean relinquishing control and facing her own impertinence. Billy is visibly moved. He tells her that while he cannot abolish the hurt overnight, he understands the fear behind it. He makes no pledges of immediate remission, but he extends a fragile olive branch to attend the launch of his new adventure as a guest, not as a shareholder, not as a strategist, just as his mama. Jill's eyes fill with gashes. It's a small assignation, yet monumental in recrimination. The day of the launch arrives. Genoa City's nobility gather in expectation. Rumors swirl about Billy's mysterious investors and ambitious protrusions. Jack stands proudly at his family's side. Victoria offers a nod of respect. Indeed, Victor Newman appears in the background, curious. And also Jill enters still, taking a seat in the reverse rather than the frontal row. It's a subtle but important gesture, an acknowledgement that this moment belongs to Billy alone. Billy takes the stage. His speech is terse yet reverberative. He speaks not of vengeance or contest, but of growth born from adversity. He acknowledges past miscalculations without guard. He credits instructors and critics likewise for shaping his elaboration. And when he mentions his mama, he does so without bitterness. He thanks her for tutoring him that protection can occasionally look like mistrustfulness, and that prostrating mistrustfulness can forge unshakable strength. Applause fills the room. Jill's countenance falters as she realizes that her final secret, meant to guard against disaster, has rather catalyzed metamorphosis. Billy didn't shatter irreparably. He reassembled else, stronger, steadier, unburdened by the need for her blessing. Yet the story doesn't conclude neatly. Legal questions regarding the trust remain undetermined. Kane must still navigate shareholder scrutiny. Lily balances fidelity with pragmatism. And Jill must attune with the possibility that her period of control is ending. In classic Genoa City fashion, stability is transitory. In the ending montage, Billy stands on the rooftop of his new headquarters overlooking the megacity skyline at dusk. The wind carries the faint echo of business below. He receives a textbook from Jill, proud of you. Simple. Unornamented. For the first time, it feels genuine. He doesn't respond incontinently. Rather, he looks outside, toward a horizon no longer defined by inherited prospects. The camera lingers on his expression, not triumphant, but predicated. The storm that began with a secret has passed, leaving before clearer skies and complicated but hopeful onsets. And as the credits roll, observers are left with the moping verity that in Genoa City, power shifts, commitment fracture, and secrets crump, but occasionally, from the debris, commodities suddenly flexible emerges. In the weeks that follow the launch of Billy's new venture, Genoa City doesn't settle into calm so much as it shifts into a new configuration of tension. On the young and the restless, peace is rarely permanent, it's transitional. And while Billy Abbott's poised debut signaled growth, it also ignited a chain reaction no one fully anticipated. The first tremor comes quietly. A financial columnist publishes an investigative piece questioning the timeline of Jill's trust amendment. The article doesn't accuse outright wrongdoing, but it highlights inconsistencies, dates that overlap with Billy's most stable period, internal memos suggesting Jill had been advised against secrecy, and a cryptic reference to external influence guiding her decision. The phrase spreads quickly across social media. Who influenced Jill? Why would she act against her own son if not under pressure? Jack immediately suspects corporate sabotage. His instincts turn toward Victor Newman, whose talent for subtle manipulation is legendary. Victor denies involvement with a cool smile, insisting he has no interest in Abbott melodrama. But the denial feels almost theatrical. Meanwhile, Lily Winters digs deeper into Chancellor's archived communications. She discovers something that shifts the narrative. Jill's original draft of the amendment had named Billy as primary successor, with Kane as co-trustee only in the event of demonstrable relapse. The final version removed that conditional language entirely. The implication is staggering. Someone persuaded Jill to harden her stance. Lily confronts Kane privately. He swears he never asked Jill to change anything in his favor. His frustration feels genuine, but Lily senses his withholding something, not guilt, but knowledge. Pressed further, Kane